This wood stove is a great little project. It's made from a 30-pound propane tank, so an old tank that's been properly salvaged and cut open, and there are procedures for doing that work safely in the instructions for this project. But it's really built entirely from scratch, except for that tank. The door is made piece by piece, and there's also a flat cooktop on top. Both of these parts of the project, the door and the cooktop, use what's called plug welds in order to hold things together. I have a video about that coming up in the course. And in this case, too, the legs are things that have been salvaged from, in this case, the man who made this, Dave Fink, salvaged these legs from some metal he found along a railway line, scrap metal. And you don't necessarily need to use legs like this, but they do look kind of nice. And there's also a lot of details for how the handle goes together, as you'll see when we take a look at the plans. As with all the projects in this course, you should definitely print out the plans so you can bring them into your shop. What you're going to find, I think, the most challenging part of this project is making the cutouts in the propane tank. So the cutout for the door and the cutout for the smoke pipe. I go through details for how you can use different tools to do this. It's certainly not impossible. You don't need fancy tools, but as I said, it's probably going to take you the longest. Single operation on this project will be making these cutouts nice and neat. Another thing to pay attention to is this cooktop. Now you're supposed to put a kettle or pot, whatever, on top so you can do a little bit of cooking on it. And there's these support strips and then the top piece. And the support strips weld to the body of the stove and to the underside of the cooktop, and that's how it's held on. And that'll hold it on very firmly. But here you can see these 3 plug welds. Those are important because they greatly improve the conduction of heat from the body of the stove up to the top here where you can use it. Without those plug welds positively connecting the top of the cooktop to the stove, there would be a little gap there. There could be a little gap, and you're not going to get nearly the same heat conduction as you would with the plug welds. So you don't want to omit those. As you're planning to build your stove, realize that there's probably going to be quite a call for them. They're quite cute, portable little stoves, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get requests for more than just the first one you make. You need to do some planning ahead of time, though, and most of that has to do with the size and material you'll use for the smoke pipe at the back. Now, these pipes are fairly small. They're smaller than standard stovepipe, so you really should start thinking about the stove beginning with the stovepipe and find yourself some round steel that will go inside the stovepipe that will actually be leaving your building. So where do you find round stuff like this? Well, well casing, the kind of metal pipe that is used for drilled wells, is a good candidate. There are industrial suppliers that can provide this sort of large diameter round tubing, but I think you'll find, talk to a well driller, see what he's got on hand. He can easily cut you off a chunk or two for use in a wood stove like this.